Again, I'm requesting one thing. We are in advanced stage. I want to take to the logical conclusion, and ultimately, with all our innovations, the way of living has to change, has to transform. Better living standards with happiness, better wealth, better comforts, everything for that matter. So there, I need in agriculture, health, education, you name anything, even urban development, everywhere we need innovations. I'm requesting all of you. Even sometimes I'm hearing new innovations. When I hear all these things, I'm also thrilled. We are in an inspiring time. Anything is possible. That is my belief. I leave the floor to you. And also, I wish all the best for all of us. Thank you. Thank you, Varanda.
Thank you very much, sir. No wonder in your leadership the people of Andhra Pradesh are living better and growing faster. So we now have, we're running very short on time, so we will now start with the presentations by the 6 innovators. And we will not have individual introductions. Please refer to the booklet that you have with you. They will come in the same order as they appear in the booklet. So the first presenter is Hussain Kazai, CEO and founder of Onfido.
Hello, good afternoon, Chief Minister, ladies and gentlemen. It is great to be here. As the world is moving online, more and more businesses need to verify that their customers are who they claim to be. But how can they do that when they don't see their customers face to face? That's the problem that we're here to solve. With just the government ID and a camera phone, we're able to verify anyone's identity. This is important because transactions have always played a core and central role in human life. If we rewind to the beginning of the human race, in the Stone Age, bartering worked and was secure, but it only scaled to about 150 people. We then started in the trade age, where we trusted in currencies to overcome this limitation, and that helped the Silk Road and trade between villages and nations, but that too reached a limitation. It was limited by where you could physically travel. More recently, we had the web age, which brought transactions online and scaled it significantly. You could buy your favorite book online, you could start an eBay business at home. But as we went from an in-person to an online world, security became a problem. And at the same time, half the world's adult population who are under and unbanked don't have access to be able to transact online, so they were left excluded. So we need something new. We have entered the identity age, where your legal identity is increasingly becoming currency and is needed to access services. Anything from opening a bank account, making a payment, ordering prescription drugs, accessing healthcare, and so on. And instead of it taking hours or you being excluded, the process only takes 30 seconds. It's as easy as taking a photo of your government ID using your phone, such as your Aadhaar card, and a short recording of your face. The precursor to financial inclusion is identity inclusion. And the technology now exists to be able to verify anyone anywhere in the world. A 1% increase in financial inclusion can lead to a 3.6% increase in GDP. This means access to remittance, to microfinance, and a whole host of other services that we now take for granted. At the same time, because we're using machine learning in order to verify documents, our technology is becoming more sophisticated, and we're able to reduce identity fraud and catch money launderers. 2 to 5% of the world GDP is laundered money, which is used for payments on anything from human trafficking, drug trafficking, terrorist financing. And as we carry out more checks and the models become more sophisticated, we're able to detect fakes that not only will cheat the human eye, but also rule-based algorithms. And as for the 0.01% of the very sophisticated fakes that miss and cheat our system, the more checks that we carry out, the more we're able to catch even these more sophisticated fakes. We started 5 years ago and now power over 1,500 organizations across the world. Anything from car sharing to payments to banking. The use cases are endless and growing. Soon we will be powering self-check-ins at hotels, identity on the blockchain, and eventually online voting. We have a world-class team of 150 to make it happen, and our purpose is to bring the world's legal identities safely online so that everyone can easily access services in this new digital age. Thank you for listening.
Greetings, everybody. Thank you for inviting me here. And Chief Minister, that was an amazing presentation. You should come run for the governor of California, where I live. We need help. So what I want to talk to you about is what I believe is the next paradigm shift in science and medicine. And that is the microbiome. So if you're feeling good and healthy, I want you to thank the 100 trillion bacteria that are inside of your gut, keeping you alive right now. And the goal here is to figure out how that's happening and turn that into medicine so we can actually live longer. I've been at 2 conferences here today in Davos, this week in Davos, that talk about living to 100 years. If we're going to achieve that, we're going to have to understand how these bacteria are actually keeping us alive. So like all technologies, you need to solve a problem first, otherwise you have a nice academic science project. So there's a lot of diseases that are known in the world. There's going to be more developed. Less than 25% have effective treatments, and even those have a lot of side effects. Pharmaceutical companies are increasingly spending more and more money, but they're not making more and more drugs. There's a clear disparity there. And of the 25,000 genes that are in our bodies, only a few thousand are targeted as drugs. There's a whole other ecosystem inside of us of bacteria where there are many more genes to go for to understand how to keep yourself healthy. So if you look at the paradigm shifts in science and medicine, in the 1800s, all pharmaceuticals came from chemistry, either extracted from plants or from wood, or in some cases there was some fermentation. Then when oil was discovered, I think in about 1886, chemistry came to play, and you could replace a lot of the chemicals with chemistry very cheaply. And then in Banting and Best in about the 1920s discovered insulin, extracted from bovine pancreas or porcine pancreas to keep people alive who were diabetics. In about 1980, recombinant DNA changed the world. And I was lucky enough to be involved with the recombinant DNA era in the 80s at a company called Genentech, where you can then clone and express a gene. And so insulin was one of the first ones made. So you no longer need an animal to make insulin. You could just make it by fermentation. Today, 6 out of the top 10 pharmaceuticals are made by recombinant DNA. You can engineer a cell today to make any chemical you want that you can make from petroleum. It clearly has changed the entire world. And when you hear about CRISPR technologies, that's another form of recombinant DNA. The next paradigm shift is understanding how the 100 trillion bacteria in your gut are keeping you alive. So as I said, you have about 25,000 genes in you. There's about 10 million of the genes inside of you. The bacteria in us, which we evolved with, they were here first. They've been here for 3.5 billion years. And they have figured out how to keep us healthy, and in exchange, we feed them. They just exist because we give them carbon and nitrogen sources. But they're doing things every day as you're sitting here, like controlling your immune system. They're healing your epithelial cell layer. They're modifying your central nervous system, your respiratory, your blood pressure. There's almost no biological effect today that's not mediated by the bacteria in your gut. Now, they can also cause disease or exacerbate disease. In that case, you want to shut them down. But for the most part, you want to figure out how they're keeping you healthy and harness that for medicines. So the microbiome companies in this space attack this in different ways. Some try and take all the bacteria of a healthy person and put into a sick person. That's been shown to have some curative properties. Some will take just mixtures of bacteria. Some will isolate individual bacteria. So think of this as a therapeutic probiotic. My own company, what we do is we identify individual bacteria that correlates with a healthy state, and then we isolate the proteins or peptides that it makes, and we make this as a drug. The beauty of this is there's a very defined regulatory path on how to get this approved. If you're giving someone else's bacteria, it's a little more complicated. It's going to take a little bit more time in terms of understanding the safety. But understanding the molecules that bacteria make, proteins, peptides, and metabolites, will really transform the way we think about science and medicine. My own company today has identified more than 30 molecules from these bacteria, which in one case is going into a clinical trial for liver disease, NASH, inflammatory bowel disease, and we have a whole bunch in preclinical for immuno-oncology, autism, and diabetes. It's really an amazing technology that's going to change the world. Thank you.
That looks like me. Okay, I try to be flexible. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having me here today. So my name is Andreas. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Conox. At Conox, we are building a full-stack solution for predictive maintenance for railway systems to unlock a new level of asset performance and predict failures to reduce downtimes. So the rail industry is one of the hidden success stories, especially in India. So more than 200 million people travel by train day by day, and the market is growing within 8 billion on a yearly basis. It's actually 30 times safer to travel by train than traveling by car, and it just takes 20% of the CO2 emission, just 12% of the energy. So this all sounds very great, but why is the rail industry not completely winning worldwide today? So there are a number of reasons why the rail industry is currently struggling. So the capacity and the number of passengers are increasing year by year, but the infrastructure was never really built to handle such a large capacity, and most of the systems out there are outdated and more than 25 years already in the field. So the rail operators are mostly not able to really understand the downtimes of their systems. So what means that they have very high maintenance costs, low network capacity, and have to switch assets even if they're still healthy. So what we want to do is we want to automate manual inspections. So instead of working day by day in the field, you will have all data in real time in your system. And we want to increase the asset uptime and asset utilization. So we are doing this by a full stack system. So we're putting sensors in the field and enabling trains to arrive on time and uptime in the infrastructure. So, I mean, I'm very, very pleased to be here. So the company was founded in 2014. Since that time, we won the German Digital Prize, the German Mobility Prize, working with the German railways, now also the Swedish railways, and this year we are expanding in Asia and also in Europe. So, and hopefully next year we will have the opportunity to present maybe together our system in this railway infrastructure, providing and presenting the data in real time into your real-time government system. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eugene Chung. I'm the founder and CEO of Penrose Studios. Penrose is a startup based in San Francisco, and we create technology as well as content for virtual and augmented reality. I'm going to first talk about our background. A lot of our team comes from both the creative side as well as the technological side, and this is part of the key magic that makes Penrose what it is. I think one of the key things of kind of having this sort of mix is that we're in the early phases of this industry, and in order to do that, we actually have to kind of tackle lots of parts of the value chain of the creation of VR and AR. I know deeply personally how that technological and analytical side can mix with creative, and that's because if I go back to my parents, my mother's a CPA or an accountant, and my father is an opera singer. So I've sort of lived with this basically most of my life. So let's first talk about creative and how that's come into play with our company. We have created some incredible works of storytelling for this new medium. And the very first piece that we created was called The Rose and I, and it was at Sundance in 2016. Our second piece was called Allumette, and it was the very first red carpet world premiere for a virtual reality film at the Tribeca Film Festival in 2016. So far the reactions to the work have been pretty good. We've been lucky enough that we've had some great reactions. Wired magazine called Allumette the very first VR film masterpiece, and BuzzFeed News called it the best argument for virtual reality. TechCrunch has likened us to the Pixar of VR, and USA Today and the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. We have been very lucky that consumers and critics alike have had some incredible things to say about the work. Our latest piece called Arden's Wake was actually the next piece that we've created, and it allowed us to showcase some more of the technology that we used in the creation of our work. And basically, we put it around the world at places like Cannes, the Raindance Film Festival, and actually at the Venice Film Festival not too long ago, it won the very first Lion for Best VR. And this is Mina, the main character in Arden's Wake, reacting to her historic win. So part of the magic, as I mentioned about, is about the technology and the combining of the creative and the tech. Our engineers and our artists sit right next to each other, and basically we create enterprise-level tools because the engineers and the product managers know what to create because the creatives give them feedback every single day. Our technology platform breaks out into 3 different areas. The first is native asset creation. The second is rendering and simulation. And the third is pipeline to bring it all together. These are kind of words on a page, so I'm going to show you some videos to describe how this works in action.
how we have really made sure that this is an enterprise-ready technology. It configures to your needs, whatever your needs are. It configures to your language, because every language is going to be different. And it actually is a very secure technology, so that your data is not going to go out of your firewall at all. I will close with this. 5,000 years ago, we developed abacus, right? And not us, as in humans, right? And 5,000 years we developed abacus, and since then we have gotten very good at counting and dealing with structured data that can be put in tables. But as in this forum, when we are thinking about technologies for tomorrow, we have to think about the way people naturally are. And hopefully this is just a start, it's just language, but it could be for any other structured data. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I am thankful here, surrounded by snow, to be invited by India's sunrise state, Andhra Pradesh. And I'm also inspired by Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu to address a live stream, because our company is currently following the live stream of this presentation, and I would like to address our team. And not only by showing my own face, because they actually see my face quite a lot. I'm going to next. Can my presentation be put on? Well, I think we both are struggling with the same issues of connecting a live stream nowadays in 2018 at the World Economic Forum. I wanted to compliment you that 15 Mbps in remote homes everywhere in your state, that's really something promising indeed. There we are. So there I start. I represent Fisi. I co-founded Fisi and I'm CEO of Fisi. Fisi comes from physics and seeing, because that's what we do. We look with a physics perspective at the world around us. And when we look at the world around us, we have realized that we spend 90% of our time in buildings. And those same buildings are responsible for 40% of all electricity consumption. And we are fighting for a mission, which is a long-term mission, to reduce that amount of energy consumption, to make an energy-neutral built environment. But the theme of today is technology for tomorrow. And that is something, as a startup founder, I realized really early on, is that you need to develop and go to market as quickly as possible. And that's what we did. We investigated the market and we realized that currently building owners, renters, investors already are installing automated blinds, tintable glass, air ventilation. At the same time, they want to maximize daylight for happiness, but they also want sustainable buildings. So already out there in the market, there is a very direct need for technology to make buildings more comfortable, so people get more happy and productive, but also to make buildings more sustainable, so that we can enjoy our planet for a longer time. And therefore, we have developed a product portfolio. Our power window is an electricity generating window which is fully transparent and can supply the electricity to all components in the facade that need electricity. Our smart window senses temperature, light, and communicates it to the internal building climate control systems, but also to communicating systems of municipalities and governments. We store our electricity in local energy storage, which we call our easy boxes, and we give access to actually be in contact with your own glass via our easy app. We enable people to have the glass think for them and make their life more comfortable. And we have developed a technology which can be distributed all over the world easily. Why? Because we have a very simple component which we can supply downstream and which we are actually already have been installing in both construction and renovate in the Netherlands. And we are now focusing on new projects, but what I dislike about this, and of course I'm happy with the customers that we have here, but what I dislike about this are always the fancy buildings adopting the most state-of-the-art technologies first. We, and when I say we, that's our team with 15 people out of which are 7 nationalities, we want to make smart offices, smart houses available to everyone. And therefore we have to go to scale quickly. We have to go to India's sunrise state quickly to reduce our production costs and give everyone the opportunity to enjoy a smart house and home. Thank you. I don't want to steal it, so I'll leave it right here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ferdinand. And thank you for your indulgence, ladies and gentlemen. We know we are running a little behind time. We'll just change the setting for the panel discussion, which will be a 20-minute thing. And I'll just hand over the floor to Shireen. Shireen Bhan is the managing editor of CNBC TV 18, our media partner for today. And she's also a World Economic Forum Young Global Leader. So while the stage is set for the panel discussion, it's over to Shireen.
Thank you very much, Amit. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you to all of our presenters here, including the Chief Minister, for giving us a sense of where things are headed, not just in 2018, but in the foreseeable future. At CNBC TV 18, I run a show called Young Turks. It is India's longest-running show on startups. So we started tracking startups well before startups became sexy in India. So we're very happy to be here to partner with this event to talk about the technology disruptions that we're likely to see. I think the stage is set. May I request all of our panelists to start getting seated, sir? May I request you to join us?
Yeah.
Please go ahead, sir. Can we have our tech disruptors join us on stage as well, please? Jack, Raj. Yeah. Excellent.
Thank you.
You.
That's for you. Hi.
All right. Mr. Naidu, if I could start by asking you, sir.
Yes.
We have 20 minutes. And I don't want to get the bells ringing again, so let me start by asking you, what is going to be the big focus area for you? You've believed in e-governance in your previous term as Chief Minister as well, but in addition to everything that you've already sort of articulated for us, the vision that you have using technology for the state, give me a sense of 2018. What is going to be the priority and the focus?
Now, 2018, we are reaching a stage. Now people are using so many devices, Alexa or Google, so many things. By doing all these things, any grievance of any citizen to government, if you can voice recognition or other authentication, we can solve all the problems.
Okay.
It may be pension, it may be ration, it may be power connectivity, anything for that matter. I am very happy so many people are here. I have to integrate everything. I am having all the data available. It is a wonderful time.
Specifically, what are you going to do to ensure that you create a robust ecosystem for technology disruptors to operate out of the state?
What I am saying, ultimately you have to give cost effective and also most livable. When it happens, all these things, if you create wealth, if you can maintain sustainable development goals, then only it will happen. All these developments are going to add towards that. My stakeholders are my citizens.
Yeah.
I have to provide better, best living standards, no poverty, all power security or gas security, fiber security, all security I have to give him real time.
Okay, in real time. Jack, let me ask you about the opportunities that India throws up. In the light of the fact that we've got a government that believes that less cash is the way to go, we saw the demonetization exercise. We've seen digital payments rise significantly since then. So how do you sort of see the Indian context today, and what do you believe is the need of the hour now to ensure that this continues?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just start by saying, certainly from where we sit, there's probably no single market in the world that represents more potential for broadening inclusion and expanding access to financial services through electronic payments than India. And we're excited to work with the government in India and Andhra Pradesh to unlock that, because both governments are making all the right moves to put themselves in the lead in terms of the way that they're supporting and driving innovation. So, from our perspective at Visa, what is it going to take? I think it's going to take continued investment in public and private partnership to continue to drive more merchants, more consumers into the fold with respect to electronic payments. I mean, as you mentioned, demonetization was a great start. When demonetization occurred, penetration of electronic payments in India was at 7%.
Yeah.
It's at 50% globally. So we have a long way to go, but we've made a lot of progress in a very short space of time, supported by investments in innovation by companies like ours, but moreover by the Indian government itself.
Before I get to Raj, you spoke specifically about public-private partnerships and how that is nurturing this digital payments ecosystem. Specifically, what is it that you would like to see the government put on the table?
Well, it's from a payment standpoint, it's complicated. You have to get a lot of things right to really get the cash out of the system. You've got to get the consumer there. You've got to get the merchant there. You've got to get the financial sector there. We certainly can't do it on our own, and no single player in the payments ecosystem can do it on its own. So we turn to government as a strong partner to help lead the way and set the scene and set the tone and make the right investments. What the Chief Minister talked about earlier in terms of just being declarative that less cash and cashlessness is important is all by itself an important move that governments can make. But furthermore, active support in converting government itself to electronic payments acceptance, which we've seen happen in Vizag and Andhra Pradesh, which we're really excited about.
So what kind of investments are you willing to make in India, given the big opportunity that you see?
We're very invested in India. I mean, at Visa, we've been in India for 30 years, and we have invested probably more in the last 2 years, both from a payment standpoint, but also just from a human capital standpoint, and expanding our footprint all over the country. And we're just going to continue to invest on both dimensions because we feel there's just so much potential there.
Raj, where do you see potential? Where do you see the most opportunity that you can capitalize on?
There's two areas we've invested in India in the past year in 2017. The first is around payments. So we're big believers in the fact that there is more space in the payments market, even with Paytm and other large players. We think that there's more innovation coming in the space. We invested in a great company in the space late last year, and we were lucky to get in before the demonetization happened. And the company's grown incredibly fast since then. The second space where we see a lot of opportunity is Indian entrepreneurs thinking more globally, specifically about enterprise software. We're invested in a company where the development and most of the engineers are in India. They have a front end in the U.S., which is important from a sales perspective, but we think this is a huge opportunity. And as India grows, I think India has the ability to adopt some of the Israeli model and some of the China model. And China, where it's been a lot about local consumers, and as Indian consumers pass, $10,000 in GDP per capita, we think that's very exciting. But on the other hand, it still will take time. So India thinking more globally and building businesses for outside of India, which is much more the Israel model, is one that we think will also work in India.
Okay, so a marriage of the Chinese and the Israeli model. If you're betting on payments and start software as a service at this point in time, in 2018, what's going to be the big idea that you would like to bet on?
The next frontier for us, for India, is digital health. We think healthcare in India will be transformed. Younger people who have more discretionary income, who are more aware of their health and want better treatment options, and elderly people. And when you combine that with a large portion of people who are not near a primary care provider, we think enterprise software in digital health is the next frontier in India.
Okay, digital health, next frontier. Let me ask you about the opportunities that you see in India and what looks ripe at this point in time from a bet that you would like to make.
Sure. So, look, in general, AI, IoT and blockchain have been referred to here today a few times, and that won't surprise anybody. listening to your presentation, I think about open, decentralized platforms as what should underpin some of that. You talked about a central hub. Well, it can be logically centralized, but physically decentralized and open to all parties, as society, government, and business.
Yes.
Since you're talking about blockchain, and this is the big buzzword that everybody's sort of trying to understand and grapple with at this point in time, governments included. In India, and I think this is something that governments around the world are dealing with, how do you treat cryptocurrencies? What do you do with Bitcoin, for instance? And I think this is a conversation that currently is consuming the Indian government as well. It's not legal tender, but then do you regulate it? Do you allow it to happen? Where do you see the future for cryptocurrencies and for things like Bitcoin?
Sure, okay, that's a very good question. So let's talk about a Bitcoin as a first generation blockchain protocol, and it was designed, it's a fantastic invention. Designed to be a cryptocurrency, but today I think we could all agree that it's not necessarily being used as a prevalent medium of exchange. So it's more of a speculative instrument right now. But what underpins it, of course, is a fantastic invention which has proven consensus mechanisms, and it's also proven that we actually don't need a company in the domain of the intermediary. Now, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
If you think about the business models of the last 30 years, the last 3 decades, a majority of the most successful business models have been dominated by intermediaries. So you think about banking, exchanges, eBay, Facebook, Google, Amazon, Airbnb, Uber, they're all intermediaries. Blockchain eats intermediaries for breakfast. So it sounds like a very outlandish statement to say that the new economy darlings are now the most vulnerable organizations on the planet, but that's true. That's trillions of dollars of value that's migrating to decentralized systems where there will be no company. Now, in terms of currency, so in third generation protocols beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum, we'll see that cryptocurrencies become pegged to things like fiat currencies, or better still, baskets of fiat currencies. So we'll have inherent stability in those, and they'll become a medium of exchange, and tokens will be something else. They'll be important to the proper functioning of the system. So these things pull apart.
How critical will it be for central banks to support cryptocurrencies if we need them to work?
Well, they will, and in fact, a number of central banks already have been exploring for quite some time issuing crypto-based fiat, which of course would be a form of pegged. A couple of Western economy governments have been concerned about the demise of cash in their society.
Yes.
So we had another GFC or a worse event, then cash is often, or money is existing on bank-issued plastic. So if financial institutions cease to exist, there would be no money.
Yeah.
So central banks are realizing that they need to have an alternative to cash, which is not dependent upon banks.
So given the fact that you see the activity in the Bitcoin, especially at this point in time, is largely speculative, do you believe that we're headed for a bust?
I think that I've been saying that I'm not. Bitcoin is not the main game.
Yeah.
The main game is decentralized open platforms, where entire industries are transformed. So we're working on a diamond platform at the moment, a ticketing platform, transportation. These are pan-industry platforms, and they account for far greater opportunity and value than. Basically Bitcoin is 3 or 4 columns on a spreadsheet, an address, a balance, access control script. Fantastic invention. We should all laud it. So we're standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yes.
But it is what it is. The game ahead of us is much larger and much more impactful for society, business, and government.
Okay, Mr. Naidu, you've heard from our 3 panelists here talking about some of the areas that they're interested in, the opportunities that they see in India. Digital health or payments specifically. What is it that you would like to see from them as they partner with you?
No, it is a fact now. Future is for digital currency. Even I was the chairperson for the digital currency in India after demonetization. We have discussed thoroughly. There is a lot of prospects. We have given recommendations also. In this, there are 2 aspects. Even physical currency should be costlier than digital currency.
Yeah.
Then automatically it will take off.
So you penalize the use of cash. Okay.
That is what I'm saying.
Right.
Then automatically it will pick up. People are very smart. In India, everybody is having smartphone. Microsoft, by studying Indian conditions, now they have developed Kaizala app. This is one app where multiple messages, multiple data, multiple layers we can send simultaneously. That is how it has done.
Okay.
So we are very clear. Cell phone is enough for future.
Yes.
To do business anywhere in the world.
Well, penalizing cash would be music to your ears, Jack.
Not only there.
It sounds great.
No, not only from their part, not only service providers, even government. Government are the best beneficiaries out of it.
You know, whether it's here in Davos or the CEO surveys that have been done by PwC and Deloitte and so on and so forth, the cyber threat is emerging as one of the sort of big challenges that CEOs are having to deal with, and they're going to have that conversation at the top level. What do you see in 2018 around this area, and how do you see CEOs positioning themselves to face that challenge? Let me start by asking you.
I think that if we continue on this thread around open decentralized platforms, we had Bitcoin, and Ethereum's brought logic into the network. As we move into third generation protocols, what we're dealing with is a limitless decentralized world computer that anyone can use. And it'll be far more tamper-proof, robust and secure than any centralized system that you can develop today. Mm-hmm. And eventually people will